Greetings and salutations. It is I, Mr. Nothing, the museum curator of the weird and the strange, and the host who might be a ghost. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels across of Genovia. So you might be saying, well, that sounds familiar. Where does that sound familiar? And that is because I am talking about another book in the Princess Diaries series by Meg Cabot. It's the fifth book, so we made it quite a ways. It is called Princess in Pink. So I'll be talking about Princess in Pink today. I don't have a physical book copy because I read it on my Kindle, so I'll put something up there so you can see the cover. It's just pink. The covers are very minimalistic, much like the Artemis Fowl series, except not nearly as fun. Kind of just like diaries, which is exactly what it is. It's a princess diary. So I know I said I was gonna take a big break from the series, and I feel like I did that. I probably would have jumped on the next book almost immediately if the fourth one had been any good. But in case you've forgotten, here's a little overview of the series. Mia finds out that she's a princess, and she has to deal with that and figuring out more about herself, developing self-confidence, becoming okay with her body image, dealing with her grandmother, who is the queen, I think, of Genovia. Trying to maneuver around her grandma's traditional values, falling in love with her sister's best friend, Michael, or her sister's brother, or her best friend's brother, Michael, and navigating breakups and various dances and, evil shenanigans on the part of her grandmother. There is a book before this that I didn't cover. It's the Princess Diaries 4.5. Meg Cabot puts these short stories sometimes in between the main entries. And I don't think book 4.5 is too important. It's just Mia goes down to, I think, Virginia or Vermont somewhere to build houses for spring break, and she goes with her boyfriend and she has a lovely time. And it's mentioned in this book, but just one sentence, I went to build houses during spring break. And so I because she only devotes one line to it, and it doesn't seem to extend outwards. That's all I'm going to say about it, because it's probably not worth anyone's time, and I have no idea why she wrote that when she could have spent her time, improving this story, which is not that good. So yeah, once again, I find myself reading yet another Meg Cabot Princess Diaries book that isn't so good. There are some good parts, but just when Meg Cabot finds herself writing a compelling story, she stops herself and says, "How about I make this terrible instead, and bring disgrace upon the young adult fiction genre?" So that's the issue. I'm still going to read the series just to get through it, as this is an endeavor I undertook, and Noah from Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse is you have to finish what you started, son. And so he's you have to finish what you started, brother. That's what I'm doing. And so without further ado, let's summarize this book and then knock the analysis out of the way, and we will move on from there. Princess in Pink, the fifth book in the series, starts with Mia. She's at a good point. She's thinking very positively about her life because she has a good relationship and things are going somewhat okay with her Genovian princess-ship. And she also serves as a journalist in the school's newspaper, but she's mainly just writing school lunch list, which she finds some value in because it's allowing her to practice her writing, and she's making it her own in some form or another. She is still dating Michael, and they are having a good time together. However, Prom is coming up, which once again Meg Cabot finds herself writing a story where the end is some big dance, some big gala of some sort. It's not very creative, and it certainly seems to be a copy and paste style that I'm not a big fan of. I can see right through after 5 books in this series. So yeah, she wants to be invited to prom because she's a freshman and Michael's a senior. But unfortunately, he has not asked her yet, and it's kind of slowly driving her mad. Like, why isn't he doing it? Does he not like me? And it's like, yes, he still likes you, and he has said so many times throughout this book and the previous one. But you know, you got to ask him why he hasn't asked you, Mia, which he has yet to do. Once again, she turns to her grandmother for help, and Mia's like, her grandmother's like, you gotta approach him about this. You gotta ask him, like, and demand that he tell you, and also be kind of subtle about it, which is interesting advice, but it definitely contradicts the advice that Grandma gave in previous books, where it's like, be aloof and don't let him know that you like him, or something like that. It's not. Grandma's not very consistent, and like, this is terrible advice, and it's just like, Mia, just approach Michael and talk to him about it. And it is Mia's 15th birthday party early on in this book, and she has a fancy birthday dinner at a restaurant with her grandmother and her family. And Michael, who a lot of the family members are meeting for the first time, even though they knew each other way back when. I guess they never even bothered to check out who this Michael fellow is. They give Mia gifts. Grandma gives Mia an out of character kind of gift, where she gives Mia like a sponsorship note, where it's like telling Mia that she's sponsoring a child in Africa to make sure that child has enough to eat and whatnot, which is pretty interesting, because it follows like Mia's like social justice goal, and Mia's pretty happy about it, but it definitely doesn't seem like something Grandma would give, and everyone's kind of shocked at the dinner table. And then Grandma reveals that she brought her dog with her to the restaurant, and it escapes, and one of the waiters like trips over it and spills soup on Grandma, and there's a big hubbub, and Grandma gets the waiter fired. The waiter is revealed to be Jengba. He is a Tibetan immigrant who was, fleeing the oppressive Chinese regime in Tibet, and he was working as a busboy, and he got fired. And throughout there's a B plot to the story where Lily is up in arms about what happened with the busboy. Plus, she also thinks Jingbu is kind of cute, so she hits on him and dumps her current boyfriend so she can be with Jingbu, despite the fact that she's 14 and he's 19 or something like that. It seems like a weird relationship that Meg Cabot should absolutely not be writing. But yeah, so Lily organizes a citywide service worker strike, which actually works. And by the end of the story, the strike is over, and the workers now have better wages and health benefits, which is how this is a work of fiction, because service workers having health benefits, that doesn't exist. That is a fiction right there, buddy. A lot of the rest of the story is about the sort of aftermath from the dinner, because Grandma refuses to apologize for getting this immigrant fired, despite the fact that she herself is a Genovian immigrant in America right now, and so you think she'd have some sympathy for this busboy, but she's like, oh, he should just go back to his own country, despite the fact that Mia rightfully points out that he can't, because China is currently ruling over Tibet in an unfair way, and it's Grandma's being annoying again. So yeah, Mia has her own birthday party with her friends, and Tina, Hakim Babar, another excellent character portrayal by her. She manages to convince Mia to do 7 minutes in heaven in order to make out with her boyfriend, and also give Mia a chance to ask Michael about prom. And interestingly, while she's in the closet with Michael kissing and stuff, she asks Michael about prom, and he's like, yeah, I don't really like prom. It feels like a big show, and it's very within Michael's character over the past 5 books even, for him to be like, prom is a fake event and I don't want to be a part of it. And Mia's shocked and whatnot, and it doesn't really make sense for her to be shocked, because she's known Michael forever. So why would she not know this fact about Michael, that he doesn't like to go to these big fancy dances and pretend to be someone he's not? And like this also kind of doesn't make sense for Michael because he knows that Mia is very romantic. So why is he shocked that she's shocked about this? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so that's a conflict throughout the rest of the story with Mia trying to convince Michael to go to the prom and take her so she can, be able to go to prom with her boyfriend. Later on in the story, Mia's mom, who is very pregnant, collapses at the grocery store, and it turns out she's just dehydrated. And while at the hospital, Mia has a chance to have another conversation with Michael, and he's like, "Oh, if there was a way my band friends, the people in my band, could go to the dance too, I would consider going, but it seems kind of dumb to go without them, and I'm not a big prom goer." So, once again, highlighting exactly who he is to Mia, who somehow doesn't know exactly who he is. Around this time, the citywide strike goes on, where all the service workers you decide, we're siding with Jingbu. We want better wages and fair working conditions. This includes the hotel where they're holding prom. So prom is accidentally canceled, and a lot of people blame Mia because of her grandmother, and this is Genovia's fault in some sort of way. So and one again, Mia's grandma could probably clear this up and make everything better, but she refuses to accept personal responsibility, which is the biggest problem throughout the 5 books. Is if she refused to accept personal responsibility and was held accountable later, or received some sort of comeuppance, that would be fine. But again, that's not happening here. The school's kind of mad at Mia. However, Mia's grandmother tells her that she has found a space for her to have the prom at, and Mia uses this information to talk to Lana, her bully, since Lana's on the prom committee, and is like, if you invite Michael's band to prom to do the music, I'll let you have this space that my grandmother said we could have. And Lana's like, okay, that works. And it turns out the space is the Empire State Building on top of it, which is an interesting and quite lovely place to have prom, especially if you get rid of the tourists and it's just the prom goers. And so Michael is playing his music while Mia dances. She doesn't get that many opportunities to dance with Michael because he's playing the music, but she still has a good time, and it's kind of everything she dreamed about. She gets a call while at the dance, and her mom reveals that she's going into labor. So they all go, and Mia's new brother Rocky is born, and that is super wonderful. So the book kind of ends there with Mia reflecting on how she still loves her grandmother, even though everything she's doing is terrible, and she loves being a big sister now, and she's looking forward to what the future brings, even though she's probably going to have to stay in Genovia over the summer. In terms of analysis, this story is still funny, which I think is one of Meg Cabot's strong suits. A good example of this is Lily shows up to the 7 Minutes in Heaven party with Jingbu, who she's trying to romance, Boris, Lily's boyfriend at the time, doesn't catch on to what's going on at all until it's announced that it's Lily's turn to go into the closet to do 7 Minutes in Heaven. And she immediately grabs Jingbu instead of Boris, and that shocks everyone. And Michael just turns to Boris and says, "That's really rough, buddy." And it's really good writing on her part to highlight the humor and the shock of the situation. So there is humor there, and unfortunately it's not enough to distract from the kind of aimless story that's going on here. I'll also say it's good that Mia is an active protagonist in this story. When Boris dumps a globe on his head out of anger and sadness that Lily is leaving him, Mia uses her first aid skills to help make sure he's not bleeding too profusely, and also getting Michael's band to prom and working all that out. It's pretty good, and I do like that Mia is becoming a more active protagonist. But I also said that after the 3rd book and the 4th book just made her passive again. So it shouldn't take 5 books, and she shouldn't regress between books. Her progress needs to be consistent. I know in real life people's progress isn't consistent, but Jesus, this starting to get really annoying, and I hope it stays this way, otherwise the next books are going to be dreadful. The big issue that I've had with this book is that Mia and Michael's conflict about prom makes no sense. Again, like, Mia and Michael have known each other for years. Mia should know about Michael's dislike of prom, or at least of fancy dances, and so she shouldn't be surprised that he's not into the big, like, show-offy kind of romance thing, even though Mia is. And, like, Michael should know that Mia is into it, so her shock should come as no surprise to him. And, like, there shouldn't be this, like, tension that exists. Like, I feel like Meg Cabot is manufacturing drama in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense or even fit the characters. So it just comes off more annoying, and it's just like, I can't sympathize with these characters because of it. She could have created drama between the two of them in a different way, but I guess because all she knows is how to write this, like, this format where, like, Mia's always going to some event at the end of the book. Like, you need to work towards that, and, like, if she could have written literally anything else and created a sense of like, drama for the relationship. And I think it highlights it creates a glaring awareness of Meg Cabot's weakness as a writer. The biggest issue with this book is the copy and paste storyline that goes on, like, where you have Mia talking about an event that's coming up, and then as you get to the event, like, bad things start to happen for Mia, but everything kind of works out for her in the end, and Mia reflects on how, like, despite the fact that Grandma is kind of a terrible person, like, I still love her in the end. And it's like, why would you support your grandma after all this? She's anti-immigrant despite being an immigrant. Like, she doesn't care about your thoughts and feelings at times, and she'll go out of your way to make your life worse. Grandma is not a good character. Grandma is not worth keeping in your life. And, like, that's that problem. But, like, the copy and paste storyline, after 5 books, every book kind of feels the same, with you leading up to something. And I think it would work better if, because that's what happens in the Harry Potter books. But Harry is no longer the same character in book 3 that he is in book 1, or book 6 that he is in book 1. Whereas Mia feels like the same character that she is in book 5 as opposed to book 1. Or book 5 as opposed to book 3. She never really changes, so, like, there's no sense of Mia growing as a person. And, like, you could say maybe that's because only 9 months have passed since the story has started, but after 5 books you kind of expect, like, something to be different. It can't just be, like, 5 books of the same character going through the same events and coming out the same person in the end, because why read them then? Like, you only need to read the first book. Why make an entire series of this when 1 book would have done? And I guess that the answer is money. Meg Cabot wanted money, and she didn't want to work too hard to get it, and so she created the Princess Diaries series. And I do have to wonder, are Meg Cabot's other books like this? Because she has a lot of books. She's wrote a couple of series. So I have to wonder, do those protagonists grow, or do they stay the same? And is the reason I've never really heard of Meg Cabot outside of small literary circles before, like, is the reason because she's such a bad writer? That's an important question. And so, like, I guess as I continue to read this series, I should, keep that in mind, that maybe, like, there's a reason nobody talks about this series. At this point, I'm not going to recommend the book to you. I barely recommend the series, because if you start with the first book is pretty good, but by the 5th book, who's going to read it? Like, it's not worth picking up. It's by a bad writer who doesn't seem to be getting any better over the course of the series, defying expectations, because you think after writing 5 books in a series you become a better writer, but Meg Cabot defies expectations there. So if you have something different to say about Meg Cabot or this series, feel free to comment below. I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people can find out about this horrible series and never ever read about it. In the meantime, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and Genovian travels. Farewell.